If you're out there. If you hear this message, wherever you stand, I'm calling every woman, calling every man. We're the generation, we can't afford to wait. The future started yesterday, and we're already late. We've been looking for a song to sing, search for a melody, search for someone to lead. We've been looking for the world to change. If you feel the same, then go on and say if you're out there. Sing along with me if you're out there. Sometimes you believe if you're out there. No more broken promises, no more call to war. Let's just love and peace that we're really fighting for. We can destroy hunger, we can conquer hate. Raise your voices, raise your voice, we're joining hands today. We're looking for a song to sing, search for the leader, but the leader was me. You're out the generation. We can't afford to wait. The future started yesterday, and we're already late. Thank you, guys. All right, we get another one here called Do All You Can. Yeah, just pull them
so we're starting right on time. So there are still a few seats. Y'all come on in and grab one. Because we are getting ready to have church. My name is Reverend Margaret Hiller. I'm privileged to be spiritual leader here at Unity Myrtle Beach. We want to welcome all of you, all of the ones that come most every Sunday, and some of you we haven't seen for a long time, and some of you are brand new. We welcome everybody. Amen. This will be a service where we will not ask you to stand and say where you're visiting from, because we have a lot of extra visitors this morning. I don't know why. So let us take a moment to pause. We call it the holy pause, the sacred pause. And breathe into your place of appreciation, gratitude for all of the good in our lives, the good that we see and the good that we are yet to see. We give thanks that we have the faith and the hope that all things truly are working together for the good of our species, for a world that works for all. We give thanks for spiritual presence, Holy Spirit, the all that is, that surrounds us, that lives within us. We give thanks today that we remember we are one consciousness. And we are one with the all that is. And we set intention to open our hearts and our minds this day, to hear more deeply, to see more clearly, to understand more fully what is ours to do in this moment for the healing of America and the healing of our minds and our hearts, so that we can go forward in the highest consciousness. The highest consciousness, known by many names: Christ consciousness, Buddha consciousness, the consciousness of love and peace. So once again, we breathe into that place of appreciation for this day, this moment, this place, and all who are assembled here. And we give thanks in the name and in the light of the living presence of peace within each one of us. All those we're thinking of, near and far, all nations, all places on this planet. Peace, peace, peace. We say, so it is, and so we let it be. Namaste. Namaste. We are going to change things a little bit for those of you who are used to a certain kind of flow in our service. We've changed things a little bit. So we are going to go now to our updated Lord's Prayer, the prayer of Jesus, translated from Aramaic, which was the language of Jesus. It's on a blue prayer card, a yellow prayer card, and if it feels comfortable for you, please say it along with us. Father, Mother, Birther, and Breath of all, create a space inside us and fill it with your presence. Let oneness now prevail. Your one desire then flows through ours as energy fills all form. Give us this day our physical and spiritual nourishment, and untangle the knots of error that bind us as we release others. Do not let appearances make us forgetful of the source, but free us to act appropriately. From age to age, through you, flow the glorious harmonies of life. May these words be fertile statements through which our future grows. Amen, amen, and amen. And now I would like to read the Daily Word. This is a publication that many of you know about who have never stepped into a Unity church. And today's words, 2 words, are hope and faith. And the affirmation is, my hope leads me to deepen in faith. My hope leads me to deepen in faith. As Advent season begins, I feel a quickening, a renewal deep within me as I embark upon the spiritual journey leading to the holy days. Over the year, I may have hoped for lasting peace, greater love, or abiding joy. As I have grown spiritually, I have learned to look for those things within. So within we have peace, we have love, we have abiding joy. Once I do that, I will begin to see these qualities manifest in my life. Faith is how I begin to bring my hopes to life. Like my other divine gifts, I always have faith. It's up to me to decide how to use it. Marianne has decided to use hers in this incredible work that she's doing. When I choose to believe that peace will blanket the earth, love will heal our hearts, and joy will bring harmony to the world's people, I am using the power of my faith to bring those visions to vivid life. And from the book of John, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. I'm going to read that one again. That's a keeper. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness is not overcoming it. And we want to say amen. 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 Okay, before our next song leading into our meditation, I want to introduce our speaker because you probably don't know who she is. This is the second time that Marianne Williamson has been a speaker at UnityMyrtle Beach. We are thrilled that your folks called us and said, can you come again? We're so happy that you did. Yes.
Yes, we are.
I said to Marianne a few moments ago in my office, whatever happens, whatever unfolds in this next year, whatever takes place, I salute you, Marianne, for being out in the world, calling for sanity, common sense, and compassion in the political arena. What a concept. Marianne has written 14 books. What have you been doing? Only 14. 14 books. Most of us know Return to Love. I think that's the one that really put Marianne on the map. The two that I've appreciated most in these last few years are The Healing of America and A Politics of Love. Marianne is a Course in Miracles teacher and was at one time the spiritual leader of Unity of Warren, Michigan. So she's clearly in our New Thought arena. Today she is speaking to us on A Politics of Love. And I would like to invite us all again to hold this woman in a consciousness of strength, stamina, clear-sightedness, because she has a calling. And even though people are unkind sometimes in their statements, that seems to be the world of politics. What I would like to see today is, for all those who watch this live stream, all those who watch it on YouTube later, that we hold this woman in a consciousness of strength and clarity and stamina. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Whether we agree with everything or not. This is someone from whom is required a bold knowing that what she's doing is what she's been called to do. So we're going to have a song right now by Karen Drucker. And then we're going to do a quick meditation and lighting of the Advent candle, and then Marianne will come up and speak. After our service today, we will have a Q&A until 12:30, and then we'll go over for the potluck. I know you're all here really for the potluck, but that will come after the Q&A. Again, welcome everyone. Welcome Marianne. And I also want to say thank you to all of our extraordinary community volunteers who've shown up to prepare for this event. There's been a lot of details. You know who you are. You're the best volunteer community I've ever known. Thank you so much. All right, the song by Karen Drucker. Thank you for this day.
I want to say thank you. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful. So grateful. And I want to say thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. So grateful for this day, Spirit. Thankful for this day. So grateful for this day, Spirit. Grateful for this day. So grateful, so grateful, so grateful today. So grateful, so grateful, so grateful today. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. I want to say thank you, thank you, I thank you, thank you. I'm so grateful, so grateful, so grateful, so grateful. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen Drucker, for that beautiful song. So, in the world of church, this Sunday begins our first Sunday of Advent. And in the word adventure is the word Advent. And would you agree that we are on a great adventure?
Yes.
A great adventure of awakening consciousness, of birthing higher consciousness in the world, in our species. We are all a part of that. So when we light the candle today, it's a dual candle for hope and faith. We always need our hope, and it takes faith to even take the first step out into a calling, to say yes to doing the things that are ours to do. So we are on the adventure of awakening consciousness for ourselves personally, for the collective, and for the species. If you ever have a thought that your life does not make a difference, I invite you to think again. Deepen into the awareness that your presence is making a difference in the world for awakening consciousness. So we light this first candle for faith and hope. We breathe into that divine idea that faith and hope lives within us. Faith and hope are capacities that are wired into us, into our very DNA. We give thanks that our thoughts, our words, our presence makes a difference for healing and renewal in the world. So in this moment, I ask that you appreciate yourself for saying yes to being in the world at such a time as this. For saying yes to being here at this time that can feel chaotic, unsettling. We give thanks that we are the presence of peace and hope and faith. And thinking now of all of our beloveds, our communities, our families, and all of our beloveds on the other side of the world, in other nations, other places. We breathe into peace and hope and faith. And we say, so it is, and so we let it be. Namaste. Namaste. And now please welcome Marianne Williamson.
Thank you. It is my fervent wish that anything I say today might bless you a fraction as much as Reverend Margaret has already blessed me, and I'm sure blessed you as well today. Thank you so much for your words, for your generosity, for your kindness, and for your wisdom. When Reverend Margaret was speaking, she was talking about common sense, she was talking about compassion, and she was talking about clarity. We in places such as this, and when I'm in a Unity Church, of course, I feel in so many ways that I'm home. Those of us who have taken universal spiritual themes, many of us for decades now, and sought to apply them to our lives. And we have seen in very practical ways that when we do apply those principles of hope, of faith, of compassion, of love, of forgiveness, of living in the present, cleaning up the past, looking with self-awareness at ourselves, atoning for our mistakes, being willing to make amends, being willing to change. We've recognized from these universal principles that when we practice those things, our lives tend to work. Not only do they tend to work, they tend to repair if our lives had not been working. And what I've come to recognize, and we all do if we think about it, is that all that a nation is a group of people. So those same principles that prevail as truth within the journey of an individual prevail within the journey of a nation. I've seen in my forays into politics, I saw it when I ran before, and I see it this time, and it is a deep conviction at this point within me. The American people are not the problem. We're a decent people. I'm not saying we're better than other people, because we're not. But we're a decent people. And I think that the average American wants to do well by their fellow citizens and wants this country to work for everyone. That's not where the problem lies. The majority of Republicans as well as Democrats want, for instance, universal health care. The majority of Republicans as well as Democrats, for instance, want tuition-free college and tech school. The majority of Republicans as well as Democrats, including gun owners, want common sense gun safety laws. So if you actually look at where the American people sit on issues, there's not a problem there. The problem we have is a sclerotic political system, which far too often does not reflect the better angels of our nature, which far too often represents a swerving away from all of the principles on which we purport to stand as a nation. Now, we have a mission statement in this country. We have a North Star, and it's called our Declaration of Independence. And the main principles of the Declaration of Independence are truth principles. And they represent a great spiritual and moral as well as political opening of possibility for the human race. First of all, that all men are created equal. That was radical in 1776, and it's radical today. And the second principle is that God gave all men the inalienable rights of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. And in today's language, we would say God gave all of us the right to self-actualize. The idea that there is within us, as we know spiritually, you know, in the Course in Miracles, it says, think of the people who've achieved the most in history. Think of the greatest geniuses. The Course in Miracles says, that person that you're thinking of has achieved a fraction of what each and every one of us are capable of. That we were created to create the good and the true and the beautiful. And if you're not sure if that's true, go watch little children sometime. Watch little ones. Watch the creativity and the goodness that bursts forth from them. Look at the love that bursts forth from them. That's who we are as human beings. And then the third principle in the Declaration of Independence is that governments are instituted to secure that right. That it's the purpose of government to create the material space that allows for the emergence of all this creativity, all this productivity, all this life, all this beauty that could be. That's the purpose. It's the same thing we think of in parenting our children. That's what we hope to do, create a space where they can be all that they can be. Isn't that what parenthood is? And what can I do to create the material space where they can blossom? And anything short of that is called bad parenting. And the next principle in the Course in Miracles is that if government is not doing that job, it's the right of the people to alter that or to abolish that. You know, I don't think anybody here, certainly not myself, is saying let's abolish it. But alter it when the government becomes that which limits the productivity and limits the potential and limits the creativity of far too many people, absolutely it is ours to alter. Now, in our personal lives, there are times when we come to realize our lives aren't working. And whether it's through a recovery program or Unity, or Course in Miracles, or Kabbalah, or Christianity, or Islam, or Buddhism, whatever it is, many of us come to a point in our lives where we realize something's off. Something's off. And we don't run away from that realization. And our friends and our loved ones and our counselors and our therapists and our clergy don't want us to run away from that realization. They want us to go into a place within ourselves where there can be a reset, where we can begin again. And that, of course, is the story of the prodigal son, isn't it? That the father was more excited to see the son who had left and come back than even to see the son who had never left. And in many ways, we're a prodigal son generation. It's not just that individually we all fall off the spiritual wagon sometimes and behave in ways that we know we're not our best. We know what the atonement is. We know that the atonement is when we admit that to ourselves and to the God of understanding. And we seek to make amends and we seek to be better people now. Sometimes in our history, our government has needed to do the same. Our country has needed to do the same. You know, out of the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence, and they were very brave men, if the British had won the war, they all would have been executed as traitors. But 41 of them were slave owners. So we're not stupid. We get what went down here. And we understand that from the very beginning of this country, we have always been both and. We've always been both and. We've always been people whose hearts were ablaze as they are ablaze within us now, with genuine excitement about what it means to say. There could be a society where anybody can be whatever they want, could say whatever they want, could do whatever they want. Look at all the countries where they couldn't. Could I, as a woman, be here if I was living under the Taliban? Do you know how many countries there are where if I, as a woman, even thought of expressing my opinions, much less the critical opinions about my government that I'm expressing today, I could be hauled out of here, tortured, imprisoned, and possibly worse. This is a sacred responsibility we have here. It is not just about the rights that it gives us. It's about the responsibility that this gives us to be the keeper of this flame. So from the very beginning of our society, it was understood we were that both and. We were people whose hearts are ablaze with the possibilities, take very seriously the possibility of such a space of permission for people to spread their wings as far as they can, and fly as high as they wish, as long as they don't hurt anyone else. And there have been people in our history who have struggled for that to be true, and have sacrificed for that to be true, and have even died for that to be true. But there have also been, from the very beginning, and in every generation, including ours, people who for their own ideological and or financial purposes have no intention of seeing those principles made manifest, and have proven in the most atrocious ways that they would do pretty much whatever it took to make sure that they were not. Now that's a very sobering reality. But you know, those of us in the spiritual space of understanding do not deny the crucifixion and go right on to the resurrection. We don't deny the slavery of the Israelites in Egypt and go right to the promised land. That's not transcendence, that's denial. And Course in Miracles talks about positive denial. Negative denial is when you say, oh, nothing's really that wrong. Positive denial is when you say, oh no, those things exist, but I deny their power over me. I deny their power over my children. I deny their power because of the hope and the faith and the love and the understanding of the God of my understanding, which is within me. Not only were we created equal, we were created with a power that is all-powerful within us. And we are confronted in our lives by forces that say we have the power because we have the money. We have the power because we have the technology. We have the power because we're big corporate interests. We have the power because we're the government. And the message of Spirit is that those are no powers at all. That is why when Jesus was born, the wise men got off their horses and bowed to him. The forces of the world bow to us when we remember who we are.
That's right.
Now, we did have slavery in this country, but our ancestors responded to it with abolition. And we did have institutional suppression of women in this country. And our ancestors responded to that with the women's suffragist movement and the passage of the 19th Amendment. Now, I want to point out with both of those things, they both were social justice movements that emerged from church and spiritual forces. Among white Americans, the abolitionist movement emerged from the early evangelical churches in New Hampshire. In the women's suffragist movement, most of the leaders of that movement were religious Quakers. They sat in silence, and the entire core belief of Quakerism is that there is a light within us which makes all of us equal. And so if all of us are equal, how can there be slavery? If all of us are equal, how can there be the denial of the vote to women and so forth? And we responded, our ancestors responded to the Gilded Age and the usurpation of power by a very few who had so much money at that time, turning everyone else into basically a serf. We responded with the establishment of labor unions. And there was segregation in the American South. And there was the institutional suppression of black people. And our ancestors rose up. Many people perhaps in this room are your parents or their parents and rose up with the civil rights movement. And there was the establishment of the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, as much as there are those even now who would try to gut that. And I'm running for president because it's our turn now. I'm running for president because forces of injustice that would limit the possibilities of humanity are coalesced today in the form of huge corporate forces which are married in unacceptable ways to the force of our government, to the point where a very relatively few Americans are truly able to spread their wings. A relatively few Americans truly have the material circumstances that allow them to soar and to fly. And the American dream is not that you can make it. The American dream is not that you can make it. The American dream is that anyone, if they work hard enough, would have a chance to make it. There are children in this country, including children in this state, who are locked out of that possibility by the time they're 10 years old, who go to schools where there are not the adequate resources to teach them to read, and if they cannot learn to read by the age of 10, their chances of high school graduation are drastically diminished, and their chances of incarceration are drastically increased. 1 in 4 Americans live with medical debt, and debt is crippling. 68,000 Americans die every year in the richest country in the world from lack of health care. 18 million Americans can't afford to pay for the prescriptions that their doctors give them. 1.3 Americans ration their insulin. 85 million Americans uninsured or underinsured. No other advanced democracy lacks universal health care. Not just other advanced democracies, other advanced countries. They have universal health care. They don't have people rationing their insulin. That's a lot of human suffering that I just described. That's an $88 billion medical debt collectively that I just described. And listen to this. Of the top 5 pharmaceutical companies, guess what their profits were last year alone? $80 billion. People say sometimes, Marianne, how can we afford universal health care? How can we afford not to have it? We are paying for that with our lives. Your children, not only do we not have universal health care for no other reason than the institutionalized greed of the insurance companies. No reason for people to ration their insulin other than the institutionalized greed of the pharmaceutical companies. You go to the grocery store, and I bet you like to think, don't you, that the food you're giving your children aren't filled with carcinogens? But it is. And it is in ways that are not true in any other advanced democracy. Why? Because of the institutionalized greed of the food companies, the big food companies. And there are chemicals and pesticides that your children might run across the grass that we know harm a child's brain for no other reason than the greed of chemical companies. Farmers in this state, like in every state where farming has been decimated, farmers have actually committed suicide because farms that they have had in their families for generations, where farmers actually have a meaningful relationship to food, to agriculture, to the earth, all that wiped out for the purposes of the greed of agribusiness. Ramping up fossil fuel extraction at a time when we, in order to bequeath to our children and our children's children what we know to be a habitable planet, only because of the institutionalized greed of big oil and wars that in our lifetime we have fought, that our sons, our fathers, our brothers, our sisters, our mothers have fought and died in, that we know in retrospect turned out to be little more than piggy bank activity for huge military contractors. At what point? At what point? do we rise up as our generations before us rose up and say no more? Because love sometimes says no. If somebody comes in, you know, it's so interesting because in our personal lives, we're so into setting boundaries. In our personal lives, we're so into saying, oh, that's a toxic relationship and I'm not going to be part of that anymore. In our personal lives, we're so into recognizing all of that, saying, oh, I have to practice self-care. What more abusive or toxic relationship can we be in than forces which put carcinogens in our food for no other reason than to increase their shelf life and their stockholder value? What more abusive and toxic relationship could we be in than to struggle for health care for no other reason than to increase the stockholder value of insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies? What more toxic and abusive relationship could we be in? And those of us who understand the psychological and the spiritual dynamics know that we're not just going to ignore that stuff. We are not on this earth to simply be with whatever is. We are on this earth to heal that which is not love. And so, you know, Reverend Margaret and I were talking before I came up here, before we came in. And I've had a career that many of you know. Writing books, giving talks. I never felt in my career, 40 years plus, I never felt that as a woman I was limited. And I was never treated badly. People were kind to me. You know, if you're selling books and they don't want to read your book, they just don't, you don't ever meet them, you know, because they just don't buy your book. It was a lovely career that I've had. But this is how America really works. You can say whatever you want to say. You can do whatever you want to do. And if you are perhaps criticizing certain situations, you can do that. You can even have the book make, you know, a bestseller list and make some money. The system has no problem with that. But I'm telling you, the system works in the following way. You get in here and actually try to change anything, we're coming after you. And anyone who doubts that, anyone who doesn't want to take that from me, I would suggest that you think again. This is a very sobering time we're living in. This is our democracy that we're talking about. This is our Declaration of Independence. And the better angels of our nature, just as those better angels of our nature that Abraham Lincoln described, just as our better angels should guide our personal lives and our personal behavior, those principles and those angels should guide our collective behavior as well. Now we're in ground zero right here. We're in ground zero right here. We're in, my goodness, South Carolina. Look where we are. This is a historic vortex. But let me tell you something. It wasn't just a historic vortex in slavery and abolition and civil rights and the Civil War. It's a historic vortex right now. And I'll tell you why. I'm running for president. And that machine has the state locked up. That's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. It takes so much money. Anybody want to guess here what it cost me to get on the ballot in South Carolina? $20,000. For those of you who are on my mailing list and you get those emails from us all the time, please send money, please send money. Now you know why. The system is set up so that only those with access to big money have any shot at the pinnacles of power. That is not what our founders intended. Our founders intended this to be a nation in which all people could thrive. But if all people can't run for office, if all people can't be on the ballot, if all people can't have a shot at it, It forces of great wealth, and that's all that we were talking about when you're talking about slavery. Property rights. People who felt that slavery was their property right. And so at this time, what do we do with a system that's locked up? I'm sure that the abolitionists had desperate days. People said to the abolitionists, don't even think about it. This is a huge, huge force. Slave ownership. You're not going to be able to change it. And when the women suffragists stood up and said, but if we're all created equal, then women should have the right to vote too. And there were people who said to those women, what are you talking about? You can't change that. And when the early labor organizers struggled, of course they had desperate days. Of course they were told, what are you talking about? You can't change that. And here, in South Carolina, in the American South, when people said we must end segregation, we must end the Jim Crow law, we must end the violence, we must end the institutional suppression of black people, surely there were people who said, what are you talking about? This is going on. This is the legacy of hundreds of years. You can't change this. So what was happening inside the minds and hearts of people who stood up anyway? Well, they weren't being guided by what they thought was possible. They were being guided by what they knew was right. And if I hear one more person, say, well, the whole thing is so traumatizing. You think walking across the bridge at Selma was not traumatic? Toughen up, buttercups. You know, it's very sad when a child doesn't get a chance to really experience childhood, but it's pathetic when an adult never bothers to grow up. This is a moment when men need to be real men and women need to be real women, and everybody else who doesn't associate with either one needs to rise up into mature personhood. We are holding in our hands the most sacred promise. Politics, Gandhi said, should be sacred. And I think sacred means that we speak about it, we think about it, we act on it from the deepest place within ourselves. Now, the fact that you come to a church like this means that you honor a space of depth. You honor a space of deep understanding and deep consideration. And I believe that the majority of Americans do. You could take any two people in this space, go have lunch after, and I would bet that within 30 minutes you're talking about therapy, you're talking about your trauma, you're talking about your wounds, you're talking about your need to set boundaries, you're talking about toxic relationships. And that's actually one of the things I most like about Americans. We get real fast. But in our collective lives, we have been trained to think like sixth graders. When it comes to politics, we have been trained to kind of dumb it down. We've farmed out our critical thought to some political class, which is not what the founders intended. We just find ourselves parroting pale, stale platitudes from whatever ideological silo we belong to. Oh, I'm a Republican, I think about it this way. I'm a Democrat, I think about it this way. I'm on the left, I think about it this way. I'm on the right, I think about it this way. It's time to burst out of all of our silos. Ethnic silos, religious silos, sexual, gender, racial. Let's break out of our silos for a minute. And remember that after every hyphen, there's that word American. And those individual identities do matter. I'm not minimizing their importance. But we have allowed them to overwhelm something at least equally important. In alchemy, there's this term separatio, that you separate out the individual elements in order to join together at a higher level. We're the United States. We fought a civil war in this country. And the determination was we will not be separated. And in our own hearts, we must commit to not being separated now. And the main person that we must commit in our hearts not to be separated from is the person who unjustly suffers in this country through no fault of their own. In realms of consciousness, we do need a new American revolution. It's in our hearts. You know, traditional politics is all about treating the symptom. But a person with deeper understanding treats root cause. And the traditional politician doesn't want us to talk about root causes because of how often their policies are the root cause. And we're supposed to just go along. And the people in South Carolina, big time, are being asked, now you just go along now. You just go along with what we're saying, okay? And we're going to bow to that? When what they're saying is inadequate? When what they're saying does not create fundamental economic reform and leave 70 to 80% of Americans living with chronic economic struggle? Now, if you're among the 20% of the highest earners in the United States, it's fine. And we celebrate that. Wealth creation is good. We love that. The high side of the market, of course we celebrate that. The problem is that far too many Americans have no shot at that. And so many of them are locked out as children. So other generations have course corrected, and it's simply our turn to course correct. And when people in this community, like I said, this is home for me. This is not people who are reading Unity in the morning, Course in Miracles. This is the trunk of the tree of my sense of being as much as anyone's. But a doctor, if you are here to heal the world, which all of us are, if you have a terrible gash on your hand and you go to the doctor and the doctor doesn't look at that and go, "Ugh, that looks awful. Let's ignore that and look at your knee instead." We are not meant, the Course in Miracles says you cannot bring the light to the darkness. You must bring the darkness to the light. We must bring it up and look at it in ourselves and in our country. Not out of self-hatred and not out of hatred for our country, but out of love. And what's happening now is too many people are spiraling down. Too many people are spiraling down. There's too much despair. There's too much cynicism. There's too much anger. We're losing our life force. And for people like Margaret and myself, and I'm sure other people here, who have had whole careers based on spiritual upliftment, there's a certain point at which you can have spiritual upliftment, but you still must dedicate yourself to removing the shackles that bind. And the shackles that bind too many people in this country are invisible. They are invisible chains. Now, what Martin Luther King said was that we must have external changes in our circumstances and internal shifts in our souls. He said the desegregation of the American South, he said that is the externalization of the goal of the civil rights movement. But the ultimate goal is the establishment of the beloved community. Now, what I see in America is there have been a lot of people who have focused on desegregation and any other external necessary change. But then there are other people, and I think we all know that in our own space there's been some of this, willing to focus on that beloved community stuff, but not willing to focus on the external changes that are necessary as well. If we love our children, we don't just say, "I love you, sweetie." We also say, "I love you, sweetie. Here's your lunch." In the richest country in the world, there should not be one hungry child.
That's right.
We have the highest poverty rate of any advanced democracy, and we're the richest. The highest child poverty rate, and we're the richest country. 1/3 of America's workforce lives on less than $15 an hour, and half of them cannot find a place to live. Of the 600,000 homeless people in the United States, many work full-time. And among our seniors here in the richest country in the world, half of them live on less than $25,000 a year.
Amen.
That's poverty. And that's not going to change unless we change it. The system, I've seen it. I saw it up close, or I wouldn't have ever started running. But man, when you're in that system, when you're in the belly of the beast, you really see it. The system is set up to maintain and perpetuate exactly what I've described. And that system is the new status quo, and that system is not going to change itself. And if you think, oh, we'll just vote for one of them who are already representative of the car that drove us out of this ditch, drove us into this ditch, because only they should be considered qualified to drive us out of this ditch. We're being fooled. We're being played. And we have been now for about 50 years. So those of you in South Carolina, man, you have a lot of power. And that right there, let's celebrate that. We're only 20% of the people of the world who have the power for direct influence on how our government behaves. Our government, our democracy, should be set up to help people thrive. Public policy is using your money. This is your money. This is your tax dollars. Why should our tax dollars not be used to support people in thriving? Some people say, oh no, it's good that all that money goes as much as possible to the stockholder class because they are job creators. No, they're not. Their business model is job elimination and worker exploitation and deregulation, getting rid of safety, getting rid of environmental regulations. We've had an aberrational chapter of American history for about 50 years now, and it's time to cut the cord. And there's nothing unspiritual about that. There's something very spiritual about that. As I said, sometimes love says no. With nonviolence, with love, with elegance, with sophistication. We need a revolution at the ballot box. We need to change within ourselves. We need courage now. We need to get to the point within ourselves where, as they say in AA, we get sick and tired of being sick and tired. We don't need any more data collection. I didn't say anything here today that you don't all already know. We know all this. And I don't think Americans are apathetic like some people say. I think we're all sitting here like we can't even believe what's happening in this country. At a certain point, as they say in Alcoholics Anonymous, we need to get into the solution. Now, electing a different kind of president isn't the entirety of the solution. We need something to change in all of us, to rise up in all of us. I remind you that here in South Carolina, you had 23 state legislators who wanted to pass a law that if a woman had an abortion, she would be executed. Yeah. Did I hear laughter? And there were 5 women, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and 1 independent in your state legislature who pushed back on that big time. And I say bravo and kudos to those women. This is not about left-right. Enough with the left-right. That's all a canard. It's up-down. It's powerful versus powerless. It's those who have great amounts of money and access to more versus those who are struggling to survive. And whether you're on the left or the right, Eisenhower said, the American mind at its best is both liberal and conservative. There are high-minded conservative values and high-minded liberal values. Let's grow out of that stuff. Let's grow into a deep evolutionary understanding of the profound spiritual, moral, and historical significance of this responsibility that has been placed in our hands. There we are. Franklin Roosevelt said the main job of the presidency is not administrative, it is moral leadership. We need a moral vision of this country in which first you feed your children, and first you make sure that people have a minimum in educational capacity, health, food, just so that people can strive, thrive. Like in the 1970s, when the average American could afford a house and could afford a car and could afford a yearly vacation and could afford to send their kids to college. That was called a thriving middle class. And that did not just disappear, it was by design. Let historians figure out how it happened. Let historians after us figure out who's to blame. We don't need to go there. Where what we must do is declare a new beginning. With hope and with faith. We don't need another technocrat. Oh, they know what to do in Washington. Yeah, they're good political car mechanics, but the problem is we're on the wrong road. We don't need another technocrat. We need a visionary. I'm not the greatest visionary in the United States, but I will tell you this. I am the only one running for the Democratic nomination for president. In South Carolina, of all places, in Beaufort, of all places, where one of the great announcements was made, here in Myrtle Beach, Beaufort, Columbia, Greenville, Charleston, the richness. Remember, I come from Texas. I'm part of this larger vortex also. Let's go deep into the grounding, our historical grounding of who our ancestors were, what our ancestors stood for. Let's rise to the occasion as other generations have risen to the occasion. And nobody has more power to make that happen. Nobody has more power, given the way our system is set up, to lay claim to a new conversation. Werner Erhard said you can act one of two ways. You can act your life out of circumstances, or you can act your life out of a vision. Nobody in this country has the power to lay claim to a new vision, interestingly enough, more than the voters of South Carolina.
All right.
That's simply the way it is. And I hope that you will own that power. I appreciate your giving me this ability to simply share with you from my heart what I believe, not only as spiritual seekers, but as American citizens, we should be aiming for. I wish you the best. I thank you for allowing me into your listening. And I do believe with all my heart that America will do what America has done before. It takes us a while sometimes, but our history is that we self-correct. Let's not be the first generation to end that historical pattern. Let's be a generation that would make our ancestors proud, that would bless our descendants, and that would make each one of us able to look in the mirror and say, you know what? In the final analysis, I rocked this thing. Thank you.
I told you it would be boring. Okay, y'all, let's just take a moment, take another deep breath of appreciation for this woman who's out here saying the hard things. These are not easy things to say. Revolution within our hearts, that's what we are inviting. Revelation and revolution. We're here to heal that which is not love. Just a little job. And we want to be guided by what we know is right. Don't we? Yeah. So these are divine ideas. We breathe into these divine ideas. Revolution within our hearts. Healing that which is not love. And guided by what we know is right. And it will and does take courage. So before our band, our music team, thank you music team, sings another song, we are going to have an opportunity to give to the good work of this ministry, Unity Myrtle Beach. We are the one main New Thought community, church community here in this area. And we seem to be growing the consciousness in this area. Lots of evidence of that. So thank you for being a part of that. We thank you for your tithes, your donations. Your offering receivers will be coming around to help you with this opportunity. We want to remind you, while they're getting in place, that Help for Kids, we're collecting gifts for Help for Kids. Those need to be in by December 17th. If you want to know what's going on around here, your December month at a glance is on the back table. Tomorrow night is our Song Circle, first Monday of the month, and Thursday, December 7th, is the fire ceremony out here by the fire pit. Next Sunday, I will be here with Reverend David Hiller to speak to you about Christing Christmas. Those are the quick announcements, the quickest I've ever done. You can tell me later when you get done. So we want to bless this receiving of the offering for the good work of this church community, for all of the community outreach and the projects going on here, creating this spiritual center. So we thank you to all the givers, all those who are blessing with time, talent, and green energy. Okay, music team. Which one are we going to do?
Nothing more.
Nothing more. I love that song. Thank you. We are how we treat each other and nothing more.
That's right.
It all boils down to that. We are how we treat each other. So y'all, we are going to officially close with the reading of our updated prayer of unity. It's on the prayer card that you have around you. And then we are going to remain in place for a Q&A until about 12:30, and then we're going to go over for potluck to the barn. Okay? So we take a deep breath and we read our prayer of unity. The light of God surrounds us. The presence of love enfolds us. The power of peace protects us. And the one presence that lives within all creation enlivens us. Wherever we are, love is, peace is, light is, God is, and all is well. And that's the truth.